2019 by UNDP India in collaboration with the Atal Innovation Mission to promote youth social innovation and entrepreneurship in India. We are pleased to have with us today pioneering youth who are finding solutions of today's most pressing problems across key domains, ranging from digital literacy to circular economy. This event is dedicated to celebrating their indomitable spirit and felicitating them for their trailblazing work. Let's take a look at how our young social entrepreneurs are overcoming obstacles and challenges to make a better tomorrow, and how Youth Collab is supporting them every step of the way.
We enables organizations to expand their reach amongst persons with disability.
About working to make menstruation a non-issue in this lifetime.
We are empowering Indian women farmers by providing them gender-friendly farm equipment and tools.
We at Gapwali work with marginal women farmers to revive back lost indigenous crop varieties using traditional tools and farming practices.
My Planet is a reward-based ecosystem that empowers individuals to take positive actions effortlessly.
We make sustainable precast concrete alternatives made entirely out of waste at an affordable price.
We are building a non-surgical brain modulation device to democratize access to happiness for the entire human species.
Wow, such inspiring work that clearly conveys be the change you want to see. I'm sure all of you are familiar that how daunting this entire innovation journey can be, especially when you're new to the territory. Today we have with us an esteemed panel here to discuss about how to navigate the startup ecosystem. I would like to invite on stage Mr. Manglesh Yadav, Program Director, Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog. Mr. Sanjay Maurya, Founder, You Breathe. Ms. Madhuri Balodi, Founder, Kavi, the Poetry Art Project. Ms. Navjot Kaur, Associate Director, Epic Capital. Mr. Anish Malpani, Founder, Without Ashay. The discussion will be moderated by Ms. Rosita Singh, Head of Solutions Mapping, Accelerator Labs, UNDP India. Over to you, Rosita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angarika, and a very warm welcome to everyone present here and to our lovely panelists. I'm very excited to host this discussion today, and it's actually my pleasure to introduce the panel to everyone. And we have with us today both innovation support system players, as we like to say, and also our innovators and founders of some very game-changing startups here in India. So, firstly, my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Manglesh Yadav, who is Program Director at Atal Innovation Mission in Niti Aayog. He is a management graduate with a decade-plus experience across sectors. In the last 6 years, he has been working in the social impact space by playing a role not only in implementing large-scale projects, but also driving policies at Niti Aayog, which support the growth of the startup and innovation ecosystem. From the investment world, we have with us today Ms. Navjot Kaur, who's the Associate Director at Epic Capital. Navjot holds an MBA from Indian School of Business and a BBA in Finance from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. She has over 12 years of experience across building and investing in high-growth, digital-first startups. She first worked as an entrepreneurial lead at Book My Show. Later, she was at Fireside Ventures. She brings deep understanding of the Indian e-commerce consumer space and has served on the boards of several startups and organizations like Design Cafe, Vadam, Kapiva, Pipa Bella, Yoga Bar. Navjot has just raised a 1500 rupees crore fund at Epic Capital, which was oversubscribed. And the remaining 3 panelists are actually innovators and founders of some game-changing startups, as I was saying. So I will first introduce Ms. Madhuri Balodi. She's the founder at Kavi the Poetry Art Project. She's an eco-enthusiast and ex-journalist. She dropped out from a master's degree, left her job to start this dream project. And as a dedicated dreamer, she tirelessly works towards creating a market for upcycled products in India. She received a scholarship from IIM Bangalore to scale her business. Madhuri also served as one of the mentors for the Youth Collab Circular Economy cohort this year. Next, we have with us Mr. Sanjay Maurya, founder at You Breathe, a technology entrepreneur focusing on the environment with a background in science, engineering, and business, building clean tech solutions to improve upon air problems associated with urbanization. With his startup You Breathe, he is working on innovating novel nature-based technologies for air purification remedies. You Breathe was also the winner of UNDP's Innovation Challenge in 2019. And recently, we were very proud to see Sanjay's team landing a deal in Shark Tank Season 2 with investor Namita Thapar. And last but not the least, we have with us Mr. Anish Malpani. He's the founder of Without by Ashaya. And Ashaya upcycles impossible to recycle plastic waste chips packet, so the multi-layer plastics, into sunglasses with their patent pending technology and the first company in the world to do this. Anish has over 10 years of experience in finance, operations, data, and social impact across 3 continents. His educational background, he basically studied finance and sports management in Texas, then worked in corporate America for 5 years, and also worked in Nairobi, Kenya. So a vast experience that runs into pages, so I have to flip. And he also completed his custom MBA in London, where he studied machine learning and artificial intelligence. So welcome everyone, and we are really lucky to have with us such a diverse panel. And we have an interesting lineup of questions for you. And I will request each panelist to answer the questions briefly. We will do 2 rounds with each one of you. And then we would also really like to take questions from the audience. So let's start the navigation through the startup ecosystem. And we will start with Manglesh. So Manglesh, I wanted to ask you that, Atal Innovation Mission completed 7 years since inception. And we're sure it's been quite a journey. Can you share some snippets and highlights with us? And what changes have you seen particularly in the innovation culture and ecosystem in India between when it was started in 2016 and now in 2023?
Firstly, thank you so much, Rosita and the team for inviting me here and actually giving an opportunity to talk to such an illustrious crowd of entrepreneurs that we look at. Coming to the question of Atal Innovation Mission and the startup ecosystem in India, since 2016 are the steps that we've started with respect to policies, implementation programs, etc. And if you see the numbers of startups getting registered, they have been multifold actually. We went from 442 in 2016 to almost close to 1 lakh startups registered and that's DPIT registration I'm talking about. So we have a lot more than that, I'm sure. So if you really look at what are the steps that have been taken, there are steps at various levels. There were implementation programs, a grant-based funding that is available currently, which back into the earlier than 2014 is something that I do not see of happening. I did not see a thoughtful approach towards building a value chain of support for startups. So when you're going through those valley of deaths in the life cycles of a startup, that's the 18 to 24 month period, there were not much support that was being offered. There was not much support with respect to seed fund being offered, etc. All these opportunities have come up in the last 5-6 years. What it does is it skyrockets your opportunities to find right kind of funds and also opportunities to collaborate and network. The kind of meeting that we are having today here, I think 5 or 6 years back, I did not see such meetings happening, at least at the levels of the government and the institutions and bodies coming together. So this is something that is happening in the last 5-6 years. And the next 5 years look very, very promising with what we are seeing right now, right? We are able to find gaps and plug in with solutions. We have built institutions in the last 5 years, and the next 5 years will focus on a lot more building the capabilities of these institutions, right? So the idea that we started with 5 years back of developing a culture of innovation within the government parlance was to build institutions, find the right kind of funding that is available, build corporate networks, build networks of entrepreneurs, build networks with multilateral organizations like yours, and then now what we do next will be to develop capabilities around this. So this is the major change that we have seen in the last few years.
Thanks, Manglesh. That was very insightful, and I will come back on a follow-up question also to you on this. And moving on to our next panelist, I have a question for Sanjay next. So Sanjay, your startup is, really working on a very mammoth problem of air pollution, and particularly you're focused on indoor air pollution, which still few people speak about it. So this topic is so overwhelming and challenging to even decipher, but your startup has, established a solution, that to a nature-based one. If we can see on the screen, you'll be able to see the kind of prototypes, the kind of products that Sanjay and his team have been innovating with. And this is a nature-based solution. So can you walk us through this journey from prototype to solution, particularly for the innovators present and tuning into this discussion? It's very important to kind of understand the lessons you learned from this journey.
Thank you, Rajita, for the question, and thank you everyone for having me here. 4-5 years back, I was just sitting, maybe in a similar kind of hall. It's nice to be present and sharing my journey. About my journey and the prototype, just quick context about our work and product. So we work in the indoor air pollution problem segment, and in indoor air pollution segment, we innovate upon nature-based technologies for air purification remedies. So typically your plant-based products, then there are some algae-based, moss-based technologies also, which are now coming up, which offer some solution for the air pollution problem. So coming back to your question, Rajita, so air pollution problem is a global issue. It's one of the most pressing issues of our generation. There are a lot of talks, a lot of studies that tell you that more than 90% of the global population is actually exposed to some level of air pollution. That's a big number. And even in Delhi, some studies tell you that more than 7 lakh people die prematurely because of the air pollution exposure. So the problem is extremely big. Being an engineer really helped me to sort of really narrow down the problem for us. In terms of our journey, maybe I'll share a few steps that we took. So the first step maybe we can talk about is the problem identification. So problem identification was a very important part of our journey because, as you mentioned, the problem is huge, and this problem is fairly new to us. I mean, there was not much study that was done in this subject. There are not many researches which have happened in this segment. So we had to really go back. Even after doing my MBA, I had to sort of go back to my 12th class, 12th standard books, maybe BTech related subjects. I had to go back to those professors and really understood what is the problem, how does it affect us, and what all is present in terms of the solution. Then the next step is the R&D and the product prototyping. So R&D really took 2-3 years of our time. We went back to different IITs, different universities to really understand if there are enough things present in current scenario, the current set of solutions, are there any limitation? When we talk about the plant-based technologies, so we are working on a very niche, we are working on a very rare intersection where we have plants at one side, we have technologies on the other side, and then the air pollution segment itself. So there are, 3 very different set of, expertise that one had to build. So yeah, so R&D and prototyping really took 2-3 years of our time, but we were able to have a small prototype wherein with one plant, we were able to magnify the impact of one plant by a certain number of times. So we were able to have a prototype wherein if we put one single plant, it will have the same efficacy, it will clean the air when compared to 50 normal plants put together. So that was a good milestone for us. But yeah, it took us almost 3 years of our time. The next one is the collaboration and the partnership. We understood that it's such a big problem. One has to sort of bring all the different stakeholders together to really come up with any kind of sort of solution for general public at large. So we collaborated with different universities, different public agencies and private organizations as well. And now we are in the scale up phase wherein Shark Tank also happened, fortunately for us. But now we have technologies which really can sort of solve the indoor air pollution problem, for bigger, smaller spaces, different type of indoor spaces. So yeah, so we are pretty confident in our technology, and now we are looking to scale up. So yeah, so it has been a 5-year journey till now, but I see that there are 10-15 more years which are lined up for us. Yeah.
Thanks, Sanjay. I think definitely it's so nice to see how, science, engineering, nature has been brought together in this single solution. And that journey is also brings so many lessons for our entrepreneurs. From moving to the problem of air pollution to coming to the problem of waste. So really looking at waste to wealth as an emerging area, my next question is for Madhuri. So Madhuri, looking at this, waste to wealth area that is really emerging, we see a number of startups now booming, particularly in the past 4-5 years. A lot of startups have come up in this space. So what made you enter into this? And can you give us a quick recap of your journey with the key learning highlights for our entrepreneurs? And on your screen, ladies and gentlemen, you can see some of the products that Madhuri is upcycling at Kavi Poetry Art. So she basically uses bottles and is upcycling it into beautiful products. I got the chance to visit her facility and was very impressed by it. So if you can walk us through the journey as well, Madhuri, with some insights for the entrepreneurs, that will be great.
Thank you, Rosita, for inviting me. And everyone, good morning. How's the Josh? Everybody is sitting so silent. So I won't be like, so my journey started when I was like you at 20, in my 20s, like 21, I started my journey of upcycling because I grew up in Uttarakhand and my roots were there. So I was very inclined to the, sustainability, which is now a very, high-tech thing right now, but we were following it since my childhood. So I was working as a journalist, but I got an idea like why not to, upcycle these things which are going into waste and landfill. So idea came like in 2012, but we registered as a company in 2018 because it took us 7 years to understand the market size of these products. Because initially people think is ki ye to bottle hi hai, why are you making into a kabadi wala when you are doing so much good in your job? So like so many people, discouraged us, leave it, this is shit, this is not going to anywhere. But one thing which I believed and I want you to believe, if you, if you have any idea and if you have the perseverance to, work on it, one day it will eventually successful it. So initially people were like, kitna hi bottle aap recycle kar lenge, and we have recycled more than 7 lakhs bottles in India. So it was not about, which school you went, which college you attended, and how many corporate degrees you have. I think there is one idea, only single idea, and as you said, it's all about problem solving. So there are so many problems around us. Everyone is talking about and screaming about the problems. You just need to find out the solution of that problem, and that's the, the best successful business idea. Even it's for sustainability or any business idea, I believe in. So I got a chance to talk to so many business idea from the youth collab, and I really impressed like how the youth are coming for the for the problem solving attitude. Like I remember there is one girl who is working on the plastic thing. So they are taking the plastic caps from the youth collab. Is she here? Eco-conscious. Yeah, so I really love the idea of this girl. So I remember like the 4 or 5 startups who are working on the, the different kind of startups, and everyone is struggling. It's not, I know it's not about, always successful on the first go. There are so many failures. There are so many, people will tell you like, this is not going to be anywhere. This is not the right idea. There is nothing called wrong and right idea, what I believe in. So if you just, work on the thing just like eco-conscious, I really love the idea. And there's another girl, there's another boy from South area who is working on the soluble solution on bathware. Is he here? Yeah. So there are so many ideas, or I think if you guys, work on it continuously and believe in it, you will eventually successful it. And as I told you, like my journey, we were working on for the 5 years, we are just working as a home studio. But like initially we were like, chhod de, kar le. And then suddenly in 2016, we got one of the biggest order from Reliance Group. That was the time we didn't have the space, we didn't have the manpower, we didn't have the raw material. And they were like, this is the quantity, will you be able to do it? And we accepted as a challenge. And I'll tell you like, sometimes what people think, hamare paas to funds nahi hai, how we are going to do it. I'll tell you, we started at 2,000 rupees and we are crossed 3 crores and we didn't take any kind of loan, anything. It's all self-sustaining. So it's not about the space, it's not about the money. When we received the order in 2016, what we did is we hired the, industrial area mein chhat hoti hai basically. We hired the chat for 1 month and we put the tents, we put the fans and we made it happen in 40 days. We completed that order, and that was the day we realized that there is a potential. There's a market potential for these products. So from that time and in 2023 right now, so we are in the process of scaling up right now. And I know there is a quite huge market for it. Like eventually I think everybody will fall in place. So all the best, everyone who is sitting here. Thank you, Rudra.
Thanks so much, Madhuri. Love your energy, and thanks for bringing back the Josh in the conversation as well. And I have visited this, the current version of the rooftop that she's talking about, the chat, where she's really tinkering. Her lab is working with, products, and I would really encourage for those of you in Delhi NCR to go drop your old bottles. I just did that and see what products come out of it. So talking about, failures and experiments, I think it's a great cue for the next question, which goes to Anish. And Anish, I remember when you were still tinkering with your team, we had connected during the pandemic, when you were still thinking about ideas, you were really running a lot of experiments, running through some failures as well. So from that stage to now, with your solution going viral, I mean, it's everywhere on social media, on website, and I was like, hey, I know that guy. I think I spoke to him when he was really experimenting. It's lovely to see it really, booming in this way. But if you can share with us your journey to pivot, because that is something that many entrepreneurs also struggle with. They are experimenting, then there are failures, when to stop, when not to stop. So if you can tell us, when did this breakthrough happen? And you're looking at a very, very, difficult waste stream, which is multi-layer plastic. What was your biggest learning from this? And what was that breakthrough that made you reach this viral, sensational position? Yeah.
Thanks, Rosita. It's so nice to meet you in person. We've had all these video calls, and nice to see everybody here. I feel like some of y'all could be on the stage with us, and you're probably anxious to know who's made it to the cohort, and we're like butterflying Gyan here. So we'll try to be interesting. So we, when we started working on this, I think you'll hear a lot from like mentors about problems, identify the problem, R&D. But the things that the one contrarian thing that I wanted to talk about related to what you were saying as well about the pivot is kind of embracing uncertainty, right? And investors hate this, mentors, everybody hates this, right? But the truth is there's a lot of uncertainty in what you do. So when we started, we had certainty on what we were doing, but uncertainty on how. So when we did research on the chips packet problem, multi-layered packaging, some of you will be familiar how difficult that is to recycle. Our goal was, how do you fundamentally increase the value of this? That's what we were super focused on. We could use chemistry, physics, magic, homeopathy, anything was fair, right? It wasn't like I was walking down the street and I saw a packet of chips and the sun came in my eyes and I'm like, make sunglasses and packets of chips. It was nothing like that. It was a long process of really trying to understand what we can do. So that's what we were focused on. How do you increase the value of this packet of chips? That is not bad for the environment afterwards, right? At the end of life, it needs to be more recyclable. And we literally started off in our lab with 2 desks, 2 chairs, a stirrer, and a packet of chips, right? And we went one step at a time, knowing that we don't know what we're going to do with it. Are we going to sell materials? Are we going to sell products? But kind of certain that we're going to increase the value of this waste. But then embracing that uncertainty, because if we knew from the get-go what to do, we wouldn't have solved the problem, because then we'd be biased, because we learned so much along the way. So as entrepreneurs, I'd love, what I think I try to tell other people is that it's okay if you don't have the answers to everything. At least you should know what your North Star is and be open to exploration. So I think that's what we did, right? I think in the first year, we did close to 1,000 experiments, and these weren't like A/B tests. They were like, involved machinery and involved chemicals and it was very hard to find these chemicals sometimes and the machinery and nobody wants to put like kachra in their machine, so even to be able to do those experiments. But I think just embracing that uncertainty and knowing that, look, having some certainty on where you're going, like, okay, what your goal is, has been super, super helpful for me.
That's great tips to take notes of. My next question is for Navjot, and Navjot, I must say this question comes up every time in many panel discussions. We've also received this several times in some of our sessions and dialogues, National Innovation Dialogue that we hosted. But the question, and you might have heard about it, and usually we bring it in the end, but we wanted to bring it before. There are a number of challenges that, sustainable entrepreneurs face when it comes to accessing finance. And in this context, we wanted to understand that how can we make green and sustainable startups more investable? What is it that the VCs are looking at? And also, have you even seen the environment and the culture of investment within the VCs world changing in the past 5 years, and how it would look? If you can share some advice with our Youth Collab cohort present today.
Thanks, Rosita, and thank you for having me. Firstly, I must say this is a very nice-looking audience in terms of the gender ratio, so thank you for that. Very appreciated very much. In terms of, this is like you said, this is a common question. In fact, Anish and I were talking about it just some time back. And very good points made by Anish from a founder point of view. And I think even Madhuri touched upon a lot of, don't take no for an answer, etc. But look, first thing from a VC point of view, you asked that for sustainable businesses, what are the options for financing and why is it challenging? So first, let's look at options of financing. Do you want patient capital? What kind of capital are you looking for? VC is capital for scale, right? So we should know what the expectation of VC money is. If someone wants to run something as a lifestyle business, that's a very, very good thing. But if you're taking VC money, that money has certain kind of expectations of scale. I think if you're oriented that way, then it's a win-win for everybody. In terms of investability, even in especially in VC, there are 4 things that VCs look for. This is probably commonly written in books and VC books, but it's very, very true. One is, depending on the stage and scale that the entrepreneur or the founder is at, irrespective of that, there are certain things in common which are looked at, which is, one is, of course, what we call the value proposition, right? That what value do you bring to the table? what are you doing which others are not, what is your moat, why can't someone else copy it, or if they can, then is there a large enough market? So that brings me to the second point of how large is the market. If the market is very, very niche, then it may not be a VC fundable business. It has to be a large market. Very interestingly, not to discourage, in fact, it's very encouraging that everything that I've heard today is actually very, very scalable, and it has a very large market. So that definitely is a big tick for most people here, right? The market is large, the value proposition is good. What else does a VC need, right? Two other things. One is, the third is the entrepreneur in whatever, depending on which VC you're talking to, mostly VCs will rank order entrepreneur as one, right? So basically it's which horse you're betting on, if you were to look at it that way, right? And that means how's the entrepreneur, how's the team, does the team have the right skill, can the entrepreneur bring in the right skills if they don't have it today? So I think teams, it starts with team, goes on to market, size of market, value proposition, competition, mode, and lastly, and I say lastly because, you know, a lot of companies are funded which are not profitable. So lastly, profits, but they are there, right? Profits are probably not looked at on day one, but there has to be a path to profitability, without which it is probably not a very good investment from a VC point of view. So these are the 4 things a VC will look for. I must tell you this so that when you pitch to a VC, you must sharpen this out and bring this out, right? I'm sure it's there. A lot of founders that I mentor and speak to, they have very solid value propositions, very solid moats, but they are not articulating them well enough to a VC. It's very common. Elevator pitches are very common. So, you know, you're competing for time against a lot of people. Best to, the advice that you asked for, best to bring this out and think about this from, you know, beforehand and not post facto. Apart from that, I think another thing to look for while pitching, I think pitching is art and science. We should definitely do our homework and see who we are talking to. Very often people pitch the same thing to a growth stage investor, an early stage investor, a consumer sector focused investor, and a, you know, agnostic investor. So check for who you're talking to. Is this, you know, having done angel, early and growth stage investing, the narrative has to change. The pitch has to change, has to accommodate to what you're pitching for and what you're trying to get at. So those are some things to look for. And otherwise, I think, at least, you know, whatever I'm hearing right now, very, very interesting solutions. So you should certainly be out there raising money and getting a lot of money.
Thanks so much. That is indeed encouraging, and we've all been taking notes because, you know, we want to factor this in for the next Springboard programs, or also for designing, you know, support programs for the entrepreneurs. So very, very insightful. Thanks so much, Navjot, for that. And coming back to Sanjay, so Sanjay, your startup has actually managed to leverage and tap into grants, you know, both from the government and private programs. So how did you prepare for this? You know, if you can give some tips as well, what can other startups learn from your journey? And we're also curious, of course, about how life is post Shark Tank and what was the preparation needed for that?
Yeah. In terms of tapping into, you know, some of the grants which are available, especially from Government of India, maybe I'll just take a step back and probably share one thought that I have, which I feel that many startup entrepreneurs, you know, generally miss out, is that, you know, we need to look at the financing option as a, you know, proper resource. Money is a resource, not an end objective. You know, getting money is not a metric of your success. So if you treat getting this money or maybe the financing option as a resource, then you might want to look at, you know, what kind of resource do you want based on your stage. So let's say if you're in the early stage, you don't maybe necessarily want the VC money, because VC money is, as you know, Navjot was mentioning, that VC money probably looks for disproportionate growth option. Maybe you're not at that stage. Maybe, you know, getting certain help from the government would be the right option. So yeah, and at maybe later stage when you're growing up, when you're scaling up, maybe at that point in time, getting in that strategic investment, getting in that, you know, large pool of funds would be a good option. So yeah, financing should be taken as a resource. For us, we were, you know, extremely careful with that. We definitely knew that, we have a long journey ahead of us. And in the initial phase, it's very, obvious that there's going to be a large, there's going to be a good amount of time that would have to be invested in the R&D. So, to sustain ourselves during that R&D phase, we really looked at the funds available through certain sustainability-based programs from Government of India, from organizations such as UNDP as well. So we were part of UNDP Accelerator Labs. There was a small grant also with that. And over last 2-3 years during that R&D phase, we've been very fortunate to receive those grants, and we've cracked those prestigious grants from biotech department, from DST, from other departments as well. And we actively used to look out for certain options of those sorts. So yeah, and maybe COVID also really helped us, because our entire operations got shut down, so we had nothing else to do. But we took a internal look, and we really felt that that would be the right financing option for us at that point in time. Now that that phase is completed for us, our first R&D cycle is completed, our technology is out there, we are very confident. Now we are working with bigger corporations, we are working with factory level organization, wherein we are managing the air quality and bringing their standards through our technologies, through our work. So yeah, now we are looking to scale up. Unfortunately, Shark Tank also happened, and we are also closing our first round. So yeah, this stage really makes sense to get that kind of financing for us. So yeah, about Shark Tank, right? So Shark Tank, we were literally pushed to sort of get ourselves registered for Shark Tank in the first season also, but second seasons, one of my colleague actually, filed for it, submitted our application, and we got through. And it was a very nice experience, and different stages of your startup, you need those validations. So yeah, for us, we were thinking of getting those funds, trying to scale up our operations, and exactly at that point in time, Shark Tank happened. So that was a good boost for us. It validated our efforts and our journey. And we feel that Namita coming as an investor also, that also gave us that validation that people are looking at us from a healthcare point of view, from a technology which can really offer help to public at large for many health related issues. So yeah, the entire experience has been very nice, and now things are picking up for us. And yeah, soon, winters being one of the difficult times from a pollution point of view. So this year we are preparing for something big. So hopefully, you'll get to hear more about us in the next few months. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Sanjay, and it was really exciting to see your team on Shark Tank. The whole UNDP team was rooting for you. For the next set of questions, I would really like to look at it from a future perspective. So we'll be speaking about the 2030 timeline, not so much into the future, only 7 years ahead. So the question goes to Madhuri. So Madhuri, what will the waste to wealth and this whole circular economy sector look like in future in 2030 as per you, with the changing consumption and production patterns? And then reflecting on that, how can our society really truly embrace the circular economy model starting now?
I think the market is increasing. I just talk about the lockdown, as you said. In lockdown, we were, working every day, and we don't think about the ideas and, new ideas and how we can implement it. But in lockdown, it gave us time to, step back and think about it. In lockdown, we did the best of the business right now. So I know there are so many people sitting here who's just starting it. And in starting, we don't need the investment. Like, it's all budding, it's all ideation stage, and you've just started in 2-3 months. I know, but for that time also, if you don't have the money, I'll give you a little tips. Like, as we grew up, for example, social media. Social media played a very important role, which can, help you to increase your sale and, create a market size for you as well. because since COVID, I have seen the difference in the market. For example, I went to Star TV for the corporate gifting. In Star TV, the CEO of that company has mentioned that even if a pencil is coming, it should be eco-friendly. So the market is like everyone, like we are working with the corporates as well. So now they are shifting it to the basic product to the eco-friendly products. The market is emerging from, like, I can say from 2018 to 2019 and 2020. 2030, the market will be up from there to 25%. So there's a huge market, but first you need to, find out your marketplace. If I am selling my product, for example, I'm just upcycling glass bottle. If I sell that product in, for example, in a roadside places, people won't pay me for that. I have, created that market for me that people will willing to pay me more for my thing. Because, initially what happened, it was very difficult for you to understand the market thing. People were like, this is just a glass, why are you charging so much? So we thought, like, there are so many process goes into upcycling. There are rack pickers involved in it. They picked up the bottle, the cleaning process, the grinding, the cutting, and then the marketing. So there's so much stress going on behind the scenes. But, when the product comes, people are like, why should we pay? But we created that market in 7 years. So the product is hit in, like, in US. But now I have seen that in India also, the people are willing to pay you extra in case if it's sustainable and it's creating a values. For example, as Rosita said, it's about circular economy. For example, people just throw these bottles in the landfills, and these bottles went into a recycling. So we thought, why to send into recycling when we can upcycle and it's a utility product. So all goes into, the all circularity thing. For example, people just throw the bottle, we collect the bottle, we make the product and we send it to the customer again. And customers are using it. So it's, as Sanjay said, it's all about validation also. So we got the validation with the number of orders we are receiving. So we thought, yes, this is something which is sellable and people are willing to buy. So this is what I believe in. If your product has, the potential, you just need to do the 20-30% of marketing and the audience will react to it. It will take time, but eventually it will happen. So this is the thing. I think it's all sorted.
That's great, very motivational and very helpful for our entrepreneurs. And as you rightly mentioned, definitely there's so many livelihoods also that are supported in this whole value chain. You were speaking about the waste pickers, we call them Safai Sathis. We also work with them in our UNDP program. And they are indeed, in a way, human carbon credits, right? They are really helping us to offset so much of our waste and so much of our emissions. So it's really beautiful, the work that you're doing. So moving on and looking at the future, Anish, it's your turn now to look at the future. And very simple, straightforward question, what's next for your startup? Will you really stick to the multi-layer plastic space? Because we know there are challenges as well in, really scaling the solution. So do you think, this kind of waste stream will be reduced, say in 2030, or will there be new materials probably discovered that reduces our dependency? And what are the alternatives and technological innovations that you see that are emerging in this space? Because we see that, you have lots of, work experience, and you were also looking and learning across 3 continents. So any futuristic technology that we could look forward to in the waste sector?
Yeah, no, great question. We were invited this last couple of weeks ago to Stockholm by the H&M Foundation to talk about technology at an international stage, and it was very interesting. So I landed in Stockholm, and the first thing I did was I went and bought a packet of chips. I'm like, these guys in Europe are very progressive. They would probably be leading the change when it comes to multi-layer plastic packaging. So I'm like, hey, let's see, is it even a problem here as it's in India? So what I discovered was that I found like a packet of chips, same issue. They're over there, here as well. But then I found a progressive brand that's doing recycled flexible packaging. So I was like, oh, this is super interesting. So obviously we're like, geeky about packets of chips. And what they did was, it was made from 3 layers. The outside layer was recycled paper. The middle layer was aluminium, and the outer layer was plastic. And they're like, hey, this is sustainable. And I'm like, no, you've just made it worse. They've taken recycled paper and put it on the outside, recycled, but they've added a new compound, that's cellulose, to something that is already full of plastic. So, and these are people who are trying to be progressive. So yes, I think multi-layered plastic is going to get more towards mono material, but even then, we are very spoiled as a consumer, right? We like our chips fresh, we like our chocolates, right? It's going to be very hard to fully go away from it. So while we are going to move towards more sustainable materials, we still have to be conscious that it's not going away tomorrow. It's going to take some time. And alternatives need to be at the same price and have to be the same quality, giving the same life, right? So I think those become very difficult to solve for. So I think the answer is there's no silver bullet from my perspective. It's a combination of consumer behavior change, of better materials, and this alternative materials are also going to play a role. Like, Neha Jain at Zero Circle is doing flexible packaging through seaweed, has very good specific applications. But even bioplastics in general are worse for the environment, or can be worse for the environment, because they need industrial levels of composting, which means that you need to take them to a special center where it's done at 60 degrees Celsius with like UV rays. In India, nahi hai, and it's not going to happen. So some of the bioplastics don't work. So we have to be really sophisticated in the way we think about this and approach it from different angles. So the future is, it's a combination. I think it's not going to be. I think we need to be conscious as a consumer, but also look at it more holistically. So, and the second thing I want to quickly talk about is that in India, the problem is very different than in Europe, right? We have close to 4 million Safai Sathis or waste pickers who live really, really shit lives working in waste, right? And this is their livelihood. So when you're looking to solve this problem, it has to be holistic. Like at Without, we formalize waste pickers into our supply chain, giving them dignified labor, and it's just like low-hanging fruit, right? But it's super important to take that into consideration while solving the problem as well, because you can't have a beautiful earth that's like super, with a lot of, sustainable and great, and a bunch of poor people living on the side, right? And you can't have a bunch of poor people, you can't get rid of poverty and have an earth that's crumbling, right? So I think in India, you have to look at the problem holistically. And in 2030, I think that's really important for us to not be drowned by this Western narrative that's very focused on climate only, right? It's both. It's everything, it's holistic. And I think really anchoring to that here in India is very important.
Very well said. Thanks, Anish. And definitely you spoke about a very important factor of recyclable plastic, and because as consumers, we also are always confused with the choices. We don't have information whether what we are buying and the packaging is the right choice or not the right choice. So that's very insightful for us to know. Coming to Navjot. So Navjot, again, it is 2030 and you're sitting in your investment table and, looking at which areas to invest in. So which sectors do you feel from today would really become stronger, more active, and maybe the game changers in 2030?
Right. Thank you. So today there are a lot of niches which are going to become full-blown sectors in future. There are a lot of impact and impact, wellness, climate, environment areas. A lot of good work is happening, which is still nascent today, which will not be nascent. So as investors, I think a lot of us are cognizant of that. And for example, even electric vehicles, which are coming up in a big way, the government is supporting it. There's a scheme called FAME, which actually says that in 2030, there is an attempt to achieve 30% penetration of EVs in the country, with 80% two-wheelers and three-wheelers being EV, 40% buses being EV, 70% commercial vehicles being EV. So the good news is that there's already the government supporting it. I think venture capital is becoming more conscious of it. There are a lot of climate-focused funds today, which weren't there 5 years back. Yes, there were impact investment funds, but I think there is a growing consciousness of different sectors within climate, environment, etc., which is coming up, which is good. So in 2030, I think funding in these areas or growth of these companies will be very mainstream, which is niche right now. I think it will be driven by, of course, technology, which doesn't exist today or is developing today. And whether it's technology, which is, the theme of climate or environment, the theme of AI, which can be applied in many different places, right, to solve different problems. So I think those, the sectors will probably be the same sectors which have always been there for the last 20, 30 years, but the application of technology is just changing, right? So education was already there, we have EdTech now. So there'll be something else in future. And I think those will be big blown up sectors.
Thanks Navjot for those insights. And then coming back to you, Manglesh, looking at a positive future perspective in 2030, what changes are needed in the policy ecosystem now? And what steps government needs to take in the next 3 years to make this vision a reality?
Thank you, Rosita. And it was lovely hearing so many perspectives and inputs from everyone. Moving towards 2030, just speaking on the ecosystem level, where are we expecting the ecosystem sitting here? We are expecting at least 10x growth in the ecosystem of startups alone, which means we will double in the next 3 years and then double again as we move in. Now, when we are looking at this, the approach from the government plays more only to build, say, policies which could help the ecosystem grow faster. And how would I do that, or what would be the role of the government? See, the government has played the role of awareness, which was the last 7 years. The government has played the role of action, which is bringing funds, institutions, etc., collaborating in the last 3 years. And the next would be the approach of capacities and stakeholders mapping, etc., that would work together in the next 3 years or 4 years that we are looking at. Because the ecosystem grows very, very quickly in the next few years, that is the expectation. The government's role with respect to policies will be to bring the right set of people together, build the right kind of associations, and let it carry forward themselves. It will act as a regulator to a certain extent, but not regulate, to the nitty-gritties of understanding and developing strict rules, regulations, etc. That entire part will go away in the next 3 years. The ecosystem needs support, and that work has already started. So back in 2020-21, when we saw a slowdown because of the lockdown, the startups came up with a lot of new challenges and issues with respect to funding, with respect to solutions, etc. And a lot was understood that everything had to be fastened. The entire process had to be fastened. So now we have fastened processes for IPs, for filing, etc. And the next 3 years, we will be even more faster. When we started back in 2012-14 of building the digital stacks, which are the layers upon which the startups can build a lot of apps and products. The next 3 years, a lot of these APIs for the digital stacks will be available to the startups. So we have for fintech, we have for health tech. We will come with a lot more digital stacks in various sectors so that startups can build upon it. That's something that the government is looking at, and it is turning digital. So paper is something, or if I say rules are something that the government will take a backseat at. They will regulate, obviously, yes, because that's something that is the part which the government has to play for the citizens. But I think with respect to giving or allowing for change and allowing to test, build pilots, support pilots, etc., that will be more within the government in the next few years. By 2027 alone, we will have more testbed centers in the country than we had in the last 3 decades for startups to go and play around with. We already have medtech zones, we have fintech zones, etc., where such things are happening. I think for circular economy, a lot of work will happen in the next 3 years. We'll have proper circular economy zones where startups will be able to test, work, find the right kind of certifications, etc. So the real work from the government or policies would be only to build the right kind of approaches where everyone can come together and build for the future. That's the main role that we will be doing.
Thanks so much, Manglesh, and that's actually very encouraging because entrepreneurs and innovators are always looking for those piloting opportunities, test beds, and experimentation. And if that is provided more actively, then it will become like a game changer for many of the entrepreneurs working. So at this stage, these were the questions from our side, and now over to your side. So we will be taking some questions from the floor. So I'm requesting if you can please raise your hand so that the team can find you. Please be brief with your question and direct it towards a panelist whom you would like them to answer. And then can we have a show of hands who is wanting to ask questions? Please do introduce yourself and then ask your question briefly.
Hello, my name is Shweta. I work with the district administration of Rohtak district of Haryana, and very nice to hear about all the ideas and innovations. But my question is to Ms. Madhuri. Congratulations on your venture. Now, in the district, I work with a lot of self-help groups, and as you and many others said that at some point you need some validation to get going ahead. And in the villages especially, I see that this validation is not something that these women get. So how did you get that big order from a big corporate which motivated you to do better? So yeah.
Yeah, as I told you, like, if you're working, you need to show your work also. For example, if you're saying that, from which district you are?
Rohtak.
Rohtak. So there are so many people who are working from different villages. But they are like, for example, if an organization, if you're working with a village and if you are just teaching something in your self-help group and you can just show those products. For example, even on Instagram, I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you're just making the product and put it on the Instagram, just boost those posts and you can see the audience are there to buy the product. For example, the earrings which I'm wearing, I spotted that them on Instagram, and there is a women group in Kutch, Gujarat. So they are selling this earring 1500 rupees. I'm just telling you that the villagers. So it's all about the marketplace. Like if you're making a product, just put it on the right market. If you don't know the market size or marketplace, just put it on somewhere where people can, see your product. And then, ask for the price. And then you can see like how many people are asking for the price, how many people are willing to buy that product. And that's how you can, validate your product and the market size. But first you have to show your work. जो दिखता है वही बिकता है. That's the thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that question. Can we have the next mic there at the back?
Meanwhile, can I go ahead? Hello, hi. Thank you for the wonderful insights. So my name is Shubham and I work with District Administration Bhiwani, Haryana. So, so my question is to Mr. Shaurya. That we have a lot of problems, right? Like, so as one of you mentioned, so how did you reach to that one particular problem area, right? That one particular domain. So that's my, so out of, let's say 100 problems we face every day, right? So choosing or, so the reason why I ask is that business ideation is very much challenging. Like I listen to people say that, मुझे business शुरू करना है in my district, मुझे business शुरू करना है पर मेरे पास idea नहीं है. They come to my office and say कि we have everything, resources है, पर मुझे आप कोई business बता दीजिए क्या करना है.
Right. I think the question is directed to me. Hi,
yes.
Shubham. Yeah. So the question is how to identify where you want to, put your energy and time, right? So I can only speak for myself. It took me about 6 months to decide whether I want to get into the air purification space or not. And I met almost 100 of different stakeholders in this segment just to understand what is happening and if the problem really excites me, if my credentials, my background really can make any difference into this segment. And being also grounded so that I really, from hypothetical point of view, I really admire people who are working on grassroots level, going to those villages and working with people with not so much technology at hand, and that is something I really aspire to do, but I don't have that background. I don't have that knowledge. I've been living all my life in the urban cities, so I know the problems of urban cities. I have seen the urbanization happening in the last 20, 30 years in different cities from Lucknow, Kanpur, Delhi, Gurgaon. So these problems are, directly related to me. I, have seen these problems firsthand. So that is, how I narrowed down where I could spend my time. And then when urbanization, urban city problems, you talk about the three fundamental elements of life: food, water, and air. So that was the first thing that I thought, maybe I can work in either of these three segments. Then it became a engineering problem for me. Food segment is, we've seen so many things happening in the food segment, be it your organic farming, your hydroponics, aquaponics, and such things. And things are picking up. In water segment, access to healthy and clean water is something which is still a problem to many. But how to clean the water is pretty much, sorted at scale also. So the last thing, remained for me was air. And air as a segment, pollution as a problem was something that I really felt has been untouched for so many decades. There have been government bodies which were formed in early or late 80s. There have been so many standards and policies put up in place, but nothing is happening. The pollution is rapidly increasing. So that was a breaking point for me, that this is a segment that from my background being an engineer, I can maybe bring in some value, and also from the business point of view, it really, I was able to see a good future from both value proposition and business opportunity point of view. So then it became something that I really wanted to do for next 5-10 years, and other things started to fall in place. But this whole thing that I just mentioned in 2-3 minutes, it took me 6 months. I was completing my MBA, and I had a PPO offer from a big corporation. So to give up that and maybe do this. So this was a long journey, and a lot of back and forth conversations happened. So, but yeah, eventually it'll happen. So, but that 6 months brainstorming was very, very important. It could not have been skipped. So,
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sanjay. Can we have the mic here in the front, please? Yeah, right there. Yeah, okay, so the next.
Hi, I'm Kamna, and I'm from Delhi Skill and Entrepreneur University. I'm a professor there from School of Sustainability. So my question again direct to Sanjay only. Sanjay, I would really like to hear more from you about the validation the process which you followed for the plants. So that would be really helpful for others and me also, that how you validated that this plant would, sequester this much air pollution from the room or the other thing.
hello, ma'am. I'm guessing you're asking about the technology, and I can maybe spend 2 minutes on the technology part. Yeah. So, right. So, plant-based technologies for air purification is something which has been discussed by researchers for last 30-40 years. The first study that came out was done by NASA scientists. They wanted to work on a technology that they can bring to space so that there is no recurring expense to take these filters again and again to these different establishments that they have in this space. So they wanted to sort of work on plants or maybe identify certain things which are self-sustainable. You just get them once and it can sustain for a long period of time. So the study came up with 15 to 20 plants, and it mentioned that these plants have certain cleaning capabilities against certain type of pollutants. And that was the end of that study. For next 20 years or so, there was nothing on this study because no one was able to found a commercial proposition, commercial angle to this study. But in early 2000, some of the South Korean universities picked up on this study. They started experimenting with different plant species, different type of plants at different stages, and they were they wanted to sort of understand if these plants can really help with the urban air pollution problem or not. So yeah, it's a proper PhD topic even now also. And we also picked up from the same timeline. So I had the list of these 15, 20 plants and the research from NASA saying that these 15 plants can clean these kind of pollutants. But how much, what is the limitation, if there is some way to sort of magnify it or not, it was something that we had to, ourselves sort of experiment upon. So yeah, we immediately created a very small chamber, maybe 6 by 6 feet chamber, and we sort of put these plants and artificially increase the pollution level of different sorts. And we tested these plants against these pollutants. We quickly understood something is happening, but not significantly. But when you put hundreds of these plants in a small room, there was a significant improvement. So the problem became clear to us that 100, maybe a large number of plants can clean the air, clean certain pollutants significantly, but it is not practical for anyone to have, let's say in this room, 1,000 plants, right, to maintain and just have them in place. So we wanted to find a way if we can somehow magnify the cleaning happening through one plant, and if that can have some impact on the pollution. So then we went deeper into how these plants actually clean the air, what is the plant science behind it, what are the different levers that can be played around. I'm being a mechanical engineer myself, I knew that if we can have certain airflow that could be directed towards plant, towards where the cleaning actually is happening. So those kind of things we started playing around, and in the 6 months, the first 6 months, we were sort of able to create a small smart pot which actively used to absorb the surrounding air, literally push the air into the soil root zone of these plants, and that is where most of the cleaning used to that happens from the plant. And we were also surprised. We actually didn't expect anything, but we were surprised to see that the cleaning really shot up. We compared it with single plant, multiple plants. We were able to see that one single plant was able to clean 20 times or 30 times compared to the single plant. So yeah, so that became the genesis of the rest of our work. How to find the optimal level of absorption, how to build that optimal airflow inside of that smart pot, and those kind of things. So then the later half of the R&D started, but that was all done in the first 6 months or so. So yeah.
Great. Can we have the next question?
Yeah.
You have the mic.
Hi, I am Aditya. I'm from CDRI. My question is to Navjot. I just want to ask, like, how tough and easy is to assess the market and opportunity for something like an impact sector, and with more lenses like a climate change being added to it, how tough and easy from a VC perspective to get it that kind of a data and understanding out what really is happening and where the opportunity really lies. Thank you.
Sorry, could you repeat your question? I think you're asking how can a VC measure impact? Is that
no, so the question is like how tough and easy do measure and assess the opportunity for the solution from the impact sector, and when you added a line like the climate change and other things happening, how how you do that? How do you find it? Is easy? Is it tough? Just is something you can throw light on that. Thank you.
Right. So I think one thing, that's a very good point. One thing which I was about to mention in the last time we were talking about sectors 2030 is also, yes, technology and new niches are going to drive growth, and a lot of new things are going to come up. And equally important, it will be to measure them. And measurement today is also it's also coming up. It's not there yet. What you're asking is, how, given climate change and so many other variables in the process, how do you measure success or go into the future and see, what will happen with all the variables, all the lack of measurement today, etc., etc. So that's a very valid concern. I think a lot of measurement tech is coming up, where if you claim that you can recycle something, founders are very, very cognizant of also being able to quantify that along with qualify it, right? And there are measurement tools which are coming up to support environment, to support climate, which are actually aiding the whole ecosystem. So not just the solutions that we all are talking about today, but I'm sure we all also are seeing and appreciating that as we develop these new solutions, measurement of these new solution tools are also coming up, which did not exist or still don't exist today. How do you measure if you get ChatGPT to do something versus an employee to do something? Today, how will you measure which one is better, what parameters? It's just new technology. We haven't started measuring it, the quality and output, right? So as we start measuring all of this, it will become more and more clear. I think today the environment and sectors are more focused on providing the solution, but more and more measurement of these solutions will come up. And to your point, this is very, very nascent right now. It's still coming up. Measurement tech is still coming up in the process. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, good morning panelists and good morning to all the friends. I am Dr. V.K. Arora from Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women Innovation Foundation, it's Incubation Center. My question is from Navjot. Navjot, we all know about social entrepreneurs. When will we really listen about social or social-based investors? Because unless ecosystem is not supporting, in which investors are playing very important role, because as you know, in European Union and US, problem identification is directly always related with SDGs, which is not exactly in case of our country. Whenever investors or any VCs are calling us to evaluate any startup, we can see their psychology or their mindset. They are always interested and they are keen and they know this, that ultimately profit is the bottom line. So when will we see this change from the government side or from fund of funds, that really fund is coming? This is fine that you are doing without fund or you are just changing the shape of polymer from one shape to another shape. But ultimately when this change we can expect?
Right. No, very good question. I think all the good thing that is, all the good startups that are, startups for good or impact, which is happening. I do hear, I think that was also the question, saying, is funding easy for them? And venture capital typically, yes, you're right, is very, very focused on bottom line growth, scale, return. The good news is impact startups don't have to be charity, right? The good news is that impact startups are actually very potentially very large businesses which can make a lot of profit. Why? Because the market is very, very big. Climate is a very big problem, environment is a very big problem, waste, recycling, carbon emissions, they are all very large global problems. Guess what VCs like? Scale, right? These are very, very scale, these are solutions which can be very high scale. These are solutions that can be very profitable. And over time, I think even the VC community is understanding not just that impact is important, but impact is not charity, it's actually very, very profitable. So thankfully now there are more and more capital allocation strategies done for these sectors, right? So there are climate specific funds that are coming up. Still early, but good news is that, I can name 3 people who are already doing climate investing, some others who are already doing impact investing. From a founder perspective, it can still feel like it's still not good enough or big enough. And for that, I would say that measurement is key. You have to go back and prove that, look, I'm not impact charity, I'm impact profit, and I'm building something really, really big, and this is going to lead to profits. I genuinely don't doubt that that's a problem. If that was a problem, we would have a different discussion saying, okay, impact is a good place we should invest in, but it may not lead to profits, but that's not the case. So I think, again, 2030, we'll see a very different world. Luckily, all these sectors will become mainstream. So that's what we are all hoping for, right?
Yeah, I can add some. So I totally agree with Navjot on the point that impact, should be measured with profit. that's only because that if you really want to sustain a business as a social entrepreneur, you will have to raise back capital unless you do not have capital from VCs or anyone else, right? So if you really think about being a social entrepreneur, and if you're not able to make profit out of your business, you will not sustain for a very long time, and hence you will not get investments. Charity is good, but charity will not let your organization become big, and you have started an organization to reach more people, to support more people, which means your organizations have to become bigger and have to then move towards the complex problem of building a profitable organization which has a good bottom line to show, which has a good top line to show, if you really want to reach the million that you're targeting, right? So this mindset, if we have as an organization that we would like to do only charity, then VC capital, or even for that matter, patient capital of debt is also not the right way for an entrepreneur to go. Then you may have to look at grants and be grant driven always, which will not give you scale ever as an organization or a startup. So we'll have to define for ourselves what kind of organization are we looking at, what's our next 5 years goal, are we being grant driven always, or are we looking for profits? If we are looking for profits, we should approach VCs, we should approach other forms of capital which are for scaling up. But if you're looking at grant based structures where we will always be doing charity, then we should never look at that capital of VC or even for that matter an angel investor, right? Because someone invests money for return and you're investing your efforts for return. So let's be cognizant of the fact that money does not come cheap, and if someone is investing, they will expect returns.
One more thing, the good news is there is another concept which is coming up in a big way. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it. It's called ESG. Right? So ESG, which is environment, social governance, is also becoming more and more implemented in VCs, because our investors and, we look for those points in the companies that we invest in, and our investors are also looking for those things within our systems that, are we doing that or not? So globally, that's ESG is coming up in a big way, which is going to top-down benefit all these companies. So that's good news.
Yeah, good morning to all panelists. First of all, thanks for giving us such a wonderful insight. My question is primarily to Navjot. Just wanted to check how much the VCs are towards assistive technologies. How much exposure the VCs in India are giving towards assistive technologies? What kind of support do we can expect from VCs in this world?
What kind of support can you expect from assisted technologies?
For work in assistive technologies.
I think if you take the same framework, assisted technology, what kind of assisted technology are we talking about? If it's scalable, if it's something which is not going to become a slow growing, small market product or service, then it's a VC fundable business. I would love to have more color on what you're talking about, but if it's scalable, then sure, VC fundable.
See, assistive tech is something that is still growing as an investable market from VCs. Because of the only thing that, you'd have to understand what market are we looking at when we talk about assistive tech. It's very important that fund flows there, but then we'll also have to understand the niche market that it is looking towards, and then what kind of niche support does it require, right? And then if we then do all these complex problems together, then we will be able to really see if there is investment and what kind of mainstreaming of investment can come. Yeah.
Sir, I represent a company which primarily is into making assistive technology. All digital platforms would be made accessible to people with a visual impairness. Now, if you go as per the government of India regulation, every digital platform has to be assessed by visually impaired people. So we are looking at this kind of a technology, sir.
I think, again, so we are investors in Lenskart, and we kind of have data specifically on visual impairments, etc. Again, a large market. I think another way of looking at it is if you see assisted not just as one niche of visual impairment or etc., but collected assisted, it becomes the market becomes bigger. So can you solve for not just one very, very small micro market, but 3 micro markets, then your market size becomes bigger. This is also something I think I agree with Manglesh that it's a niche. If you can create a multi-niche product, then it can work from a VC point of view. From a non-VC point of view, there's a lot of interest and a lot of financing that's already available. Because that financing is not looking at this sector from a scale or from the same lens perspective. So those grants, funds and investment opportunities are there. From a VC perspective, if you club micro opportunities, they become macro.
If you're looking at assisted tech, then look at philanthropic funds first. That will help you scale and find the right market fit for your solution. Once you find that, then you can look whether it's big enough for a VC, VC or an angel investor coming on board. Until unless that, you can find a lot of philanthropic fund that is there, where people want to give back to solve assistive technologies, for solving for assistive technologies, and we can look at that at the beginning at least.
I just like to add one more thing. See, investor money flows, unfortunately or fortunately, first to markets or places where maximum number of people are there. So the mindset is let's solve for the biggest groups first and the smaller groups later. It's probably unfair to the smaller groups that they come in later in priority, but today that's how it is in terms of VC funding. But in non-VC funding, the smaller groups are getting as much or more attention.
Can I go next? Yeah, hi. Hi, I'm Sonal, co-founder of Conscious. We are into plastic waste management domain. My question is to Anish, specifically related to that particular domain. Working for 2 years, I have understood plastic pollution problem has a lot to do with the lack of source segregation. And since you are working with a specific type of plastic waste, which is the wrappers and chips packets and stuff, so I want to understand from you, how do you see the, how are you addressing that problem of source segregation, which is not happening still, and how do you source these packets? Because what I have understood is once it gets mixed with the biodegradable waste, it is very, very hard to extract and to recycle. So how are you taking care of that, and if you can touch upon that?
Good question. I think in India, the landscape is a little different. The waste pickers, Safai Sathis are incentivized to separate the waste, right? So even if source segregation doesn't happen, it happens naturally because waste pickers make money, right? 50% of the income for waste picker is plastic waste. So all of the high quality stuff, the PET, the HDP, all gets taken away. What's left is, this unrecyclable number 7 wrappers, etc. And I think India does a good job in general on the organic waste versus the non-organic waste, the wet and dry waste. So there's that segregation that happens, and then the dry waste gets further segregated by waste pickers for natural reasons, right? So you don't have to do source segregation. I think actually source segregation is very hard as a concept to scale. Even like educating people what's dry and what's wet is not straightforward. I think again, it's one thing that should continue working. But I don't think that's going to be the only answer. Source segregation is not the answer. It's one of the many answers across the board. We source our waste directly from a waste picker collective that's close to us. They segregate this for us because we're willing to pay a premium for it, right? So I'm like, if I don't pay for this, iska kya hota hai? They're like, kuch nahi hota hai. I'm like, what do you mean kuch nahi hota hai? It goes straight to landfill. It's very transactional for them, right? But if you are willing to pay, if there's value for it, unfortunately, if in a country like ours where there is value to be extracted from it, the segregation happens. So I don't personally think source segregation is the biggest issue. Secondly, our solution also is in a way where we have we solve for contamination, right? Like we don't want to pick and choose. If you pick and choose your waste, it's cheating. Okay, we're going to take pre-consumer, industrial, beautiful PET from the Bisleri factory. Okay, that's easy to recycle. That's not, 90% of PET is recycled. The paper and glass rates of recycling are very high in India and the world, right? Everyone tells you that 9% of plastic is recycled, but no one tells you that 50% of PET is recycled in Europe. 30% of PET is. So it's the stuff that's not recycled that's worth thinking about, right? If you kind of go one level deeper. So So I think eventually, I think there'll be, if you can, segregation is important, but now you have AI segregators, etc., happening as well. So we'll get there. But in India, it's very India, it's where the waste pickers make it easier for us, where we just buy the waste directly from them, and it comes separated for us.
Can I go next?
Great. I think, sorry, that's the time we had for questions, but we will be having our guests during the break period as well, where you can catch them. And just before parting, maybe a quick, maybe 3 words or a sentence of, motivational gems. I know Madhuri has already given a lot of motivational gems to our startups during her talk, but just one quick round, starting from you, Anish, for our Youth Collab winners present here, entrepreneurs, innovators, tuning in to the YouTube as well, from this discussion on navigation.
Really quick, I think this is a long-term game. If you're, this is not a 2-3 year thing. If you're, so remember that if you really believe in what you're doing, there's the setbacks that you'll get. You have to think of this as a long-term game. So like, think of, if you're trying to solve a problem, it's going to take 10, 20, 30 years, and these problems aren't going anywhere. So take your time, and yeah, perseverance is what what you mentioned earlier is extremely. It's cliched, but it's important.
Sanjay, over to you.
Sure. Maybe one line would be that entrepreneurship is a very solo journey. So just try to make a small ecosystem around you. Make a lot of good mentors, lot of friends, advisors. Speak to a lot of people. Don't become a loner, because difficult times will come, and in those difficult times, this ecosystem really helps. So yeah.
Madhuri, one line only.
I think lage raho, bas karte raho. Yeah, I think after all the discouragement that I've given, there is a very, very large market. Whatever you all are making has a very large market. Please believe that. And it is very, very possible to be profitable and extremely successful in what you're doing. So I would totally agree with what everyone said. Please be persistent. Please don't give up. Please learn how to listen to no 2,000 times, and that's completely okay. And yeah, be persistent.
Solve for many. Good. No gyan, nothing. I agree with everything that is said. The only thing that I, as an entrepreneur, used to understand, actually not now, was that self-motivation is the only motivation that will keep us going for the next 2 years. So the first 3 years of your life as an entrepreneur, the first 2 years is self-motivation. If you succeed, post that, then you will get the success that you are looking for. But the first 2 years, it's all about self-motivation, nothing else.
Great, and that's a wrap. And no gyan from me as well, but gratitude and thank you to all our wonderful panelists, to our lovely audience present here. I think it was very engaging, and we can continue these conversations later during the program. But once again, a round of applause for our panel, please. Back to you, Angarika.
Thank you so much, Rosita, and that was such a riveting conversation, I swear. I'm sure all of you have got great insights into how to navigate these entrepreneurial waters. And like Anish said, I think embrace the uncertainty because, and keep on persevering, because perseverance is key. And like Sanjay said, I think innovation is not just about looking ahead, it is also about looking back and learning from your own experiences. If you have an idea and persevere to continue working towards it, carry on and you will find success. So once again, please give a huge round of applause for our panelists, because that was a very, very, very interesting conversation, lots of questions. Also, as you must have noticed on your tables, there are these tent cards which have these QR codes. So if you need more information about the entire program, you can scan those QR codes and access all the information about our panelists, about the winners, and about Youth Collab in general. We're also streaming live on YouTube. You can find the link once you scan the QR code. So thank you so much. Now we'll take a quick break of 5 minutes and reconvene. So thank you so much. Back to our seats, that'd be amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, request you to kindly take your seats so that we can begin once again. Great. So after that wonderful panel discussion and, riding the tides of the startup ecosystem, I think it's also the time to take a moment and thank all the jury members and the mentors who've been a part of this 5th edition of the Youth Collab. They have been an enriching source of counsel and guidance for all the startups who've been a part of this Springboard program. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look. For our next segment, I would like to invite our dignitaries for the event to kindly come up on the stage and take their seats. Please put your hands together for Ms. Shoko Noda, Resident Representative, UNDP India. Dr. Chintan Vaishnav, Mission Director, Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog. And Ms. Sanjana Sanghi, actor and UNDP India's Youth Champion. Thank you, dignitaries. It's my pleasure to now invite Ms. Shoko Noda for her special address.
Dr. Chintan and Sanjana and everybody here, so nice to meet you all. The moment I entered this conference room, I felt that the energy is so positive. And I feel that your energy, your enthusiasm, it's really nice to see you all. I remember the very first edition of Youth Collab, and that was still, it was pre-pandemic time. And we launched in 2019 with the Tel Innovation Mission at our office in Lodi Garden. And since then, as I think our colleagues said, that with Tel Innovation, who is a close partner of us, we have been organizing 5 editions. So first of all, big thanks to Tel Innovation for excellent, leadership. And we are really proud of this program. And this is the program that I knew not only from India, but from my previous duty station, Maldives, when we started. We are struggling to see where it goes. So for me, it's personally very touching to see that not only India, but regionally in Asia, that we continue this work, and I think India's contribution has been very special. And you are the biggest hope for a better future. And you have so much ideas. You are the future leaders. And I was just checking some numbers. I understand that in India, more than 40% of the working age population is between 15 and 30. That's just incredible. Also, these young people will shape our society and our economy. When we look at the startup ecosystem, the Economic Survey 2022 shows that India as the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world, and I'm sure that we'll soon hit the largest, and I look forward to hearing that news. And last year itself, 14,000 new startups were registered in the country, so it's really growing, and you are the global hub of startups. And I do see that you and young people beyond this conference room are looking at opportunities to really contribute to sustainable development and just go much beyond profit, and really dedicating yourself, and that is so heartwarming to see. I was also going through the list of winners and incredible ideas from plant-based meat to telemedicine for villagers, better waste management, mental health, women's health, organic farming. So this edition had many more ideas, and we are really happy to have this journey with you. And I really would like to encourage you all, each of you, to continue pushing the boundaries of what is possible, and embrace innovation, embrace collaboration, and please never shy away from thinking big. Your dedication to create a more equitable and sustainable world is inspiring, and I always say that now I believe that India will be successful in achieving SDGs. That also means the world will be successful, and the success really relies on your success, your passion. So I really would like to see that this is not the end of the journey, but we continue our journey together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Noda, for your warm and inspiring words. Now I would like to invite Dr. Vaishnav for his keynote address.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right? Okay, fantastic. Well, let me start by thanking UNDP, Shoko, and it's great to meet you too, Sanjana, for this youth collaboration that Atal Innovation Mission and UNDP has had now since 2019. It is indeed, I have to say, we have several partnerships with different organizations. I have to say that this is one of our most cherished, positive, exciting partnerships. So thank you very much for that. Of course, a lot of the credit, I have to say, for this partnership and everything that is happening here today, for example, or happens throughout the year, goes to our teams. You know, there are several of my team members here with Asta, Manglesh, etc. I often feel that the only thing I do is to not be out of their way. And so they really deserve a big hand for all the work that they have done. This is an incredible journey. I mean, this year, think about this year's collab. 378 startups from 28 states of India. That's not easy. 28 states of India. Going on to selection of 47 startups who go on for a 2-month program, the Springboard program, and now arriving at the 12 winning ideas, which are, again, ideas full of hope and compassion at one level, you know. And then, of course, the opportunity, important problems to solve, because these are ideas of people who are not yet shackled by constraints. They're you know, full of possibilities. So really great to see these ideas. So first of all, heartiest congratulations to the 12 winning ideas. This is not to say that all the other ideas don't matter. Of course, all you know, celebrating all ideas. But for the 12 ideas, the winning ideas, I have an offer to make to you today. How many of you know that Startup 20 engagement group of the G20 exists? Okay, many of you know that. How many of you know that it is going to have its summit meeting, the final meeting, on July 3rd and 4th in Gurugram? Okay, the 12 winning ideas are invited to it. We would have loved to invite everybody, of course, but there's our budget comes from somebody else. So, but there are some very fascinating similarities between the YCL and Startup 20. You know, many of you know the Startup 20. This is the first year. It's the inception year of this engagement group. You also know that the engagement groups are sort of the non-governmental groups of the G20. And with a program like, so when I see a program like YCL, or when I think of something like the G20 or Startup 20, the question for me is always, why does this group need to exist, right? And I think for the G20, and I think for Youth Collab also, I think the answer is similar in the sense that such a group should do what countries individually can't do, right? Therefore, what can we do as 20 that you can't do as one? And I think that question, Startup 20 is trying to answer in this startup ecosystem realm. And what we have found so far, and then many of you may have seen that we went through an intensely public and consultative process since we started, although well, maybe because we don't have any legacy, it's the consultative process is easier, but we started in January in Hyderabad with the inception meeting, and by then we had put together a group of ecosystem doers in India to come up with a few topics that we ought to work on. And we showed it to international delegates and said, did we get it right? And if they said, no, you missed this or that or something, we incorporated it. Ultimately, last month, after all the weekly conversations on 5 different streams, foundations, alliances, finance, inclusion, and sustainability, as it relates to startup ecosystems, we put out a draft communique for public consultation. It sent a few jitters because we didn't know what people would say. But what was clear was that if we don't show it to startups, if we don't show it to young people, what it is that we plan to propose to the G20 leaders, and it is a document for them, it would be unfair. And so we put it out, and something very fascinating happened within the first 10 days or so. In India alone, there were 40 or odd what we call the Startup 20 Sabhas, or the consultative meetings, where startups got together. Some of them had a day-long program around discussing this, doing panels, doing talks, and it created a lot greater sense of participation in the process. And we heard some nudges, but I think we by and large heard that we got things okay, right there within the ballpark. And now we have our final communique. And there are some very fascinating things here. We are calling upon the G20 leaders to raise the annual investment in global startup ecosystem to $1 trillion annually by 2030. That would be about 1% of the GDP. We have not done that before, so very ambitious, somewhat ambitious. And then we have asked, we've also recognized that startups are defined differently in different countries because of their regulatory legacy and so on as to what they're trying to protect. And we have offered a framework that can reconcile these differences. So we could at least, that can allow us to understand each other. We have said we will build a global network of innovation agencies across the world so startups can have access to finance, markets, talent across the world. And the 2 areas where this group and Startup 20 really has an overlap is, one is inclusion, right? To build innovation ecosystems that are inclusive of the underrepresented groups. And second is sustainability. In sustainability, what we found was that you take any challenge, bar none, that is of global interest, any SDG you take, and you create a map of what all you will have to do to address this SDG. You will find that there is a startup in some part of the world that already works on it. That sum up of startups is the job of Startup 20 and the Youth Collab, to me, after having gone through Startup 20. So really excited, looking forward to seeing many of you in Gurugram. Thank you very much. Press on, do the great work.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vaishnav, for those encouraging words. I'm sure our audience greatly appreciated that. And now it's my immense pleasure to invite Ms. Sanghi to come and give us her remarks.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was. Should I help you? Good morning, everyone. Such an absolute honor to be here, genuinely. First of all, Shoko ma'am, sir, thank you for just constantly inspiring us in different ways, in more ways than you realize, I can assure you. And before I say anything else, a huge extension of my gratitude to the amazing folks at UNDP India. I think we'll all agree that their energy, their focus, their drive is what working with them, that process is just so energizing and so fresh. So huge thank you to you, and congratulations to you guys first for all of us being here today. And secondly, I wanted to share this thought that I had about what possibly makes startup founders similar to actors. You know, I didn't grow up wanting to be an actor. I went to Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi University, did my graduation in journalism, and thought that that's what I want to do. And then I was pulled into the world of acting, I would say by a twist of fate. And what I notice is, because my elder brother is in the similar space, so I see him all the time, is that both actors and startup founders have to have more faith in themselves than anyone else seems to have in them. So there are endless moments where you are ridden with self-doubt, where sometimes your belief in yourself can look like overconfidence to others. We all function in highly competitive markets. For, like Sir said, for every idea that you may have, there are already 10 people working on it and are far further up in the process, which is the same with us actors. You know, you ultimately wondered, are you bringing anything new to the table? So what do? You go back and you go back to the drawing board. You work more on your craft. You try to become better. You try to become more prolific at your core purpose. And the third thing that makes us similar is that we also function in extremely unpredictable ecosystems. There was money yesterday in the market. There doesn't seem to be money today in the market. Films used to release theatrically pre-pandemic. I signed on to do a film called Dil Bechara opposite Sushant Singh Rajput, which was a massive Disney film that was supposed to release in theaters globally. It went on to become one of the first few films to go on OTT in India and came for free on Disney Plus Hotstar. Could I have predicted that? Absolutely not. What did I have to do? I had to kind of recalibrate and make the most of it. And I feel that's what you all do all the time, and you do it so well. So first of all, a huge pat on your back for constantly hanging in there and reminding yourselves that you're worth it. And that goes to not just our 12 winners today, because I've had the pleasure over the last 2 months to really take a deep dive into some of the brilliant work that everyone has put in. And like Shoko ma'am also said, it's spanned across themes, whether it's menstrual hygiene or bringing our old methods of agriculture back into the forefront, whether it's Project Bala, AgroShore, and so many that have really stood out. All of you, a huge congratulations. There is no doubt that the youth does stand at the cusp of having the power to change the world. It is our responsibility, and it is also a great gift that we've been given. And I feel that for many of us who feel like we come from nowhere, I can with a lot of confidence say that for myself, where the distance between our dreams and reality sometimes really seems big. I think what we're all learning is that true hard work and belief and recognizing a need and figuring out a gap and then just honing in with blinkers on and working towards it makes that distance between dreams and reality really tiny. So I hope that your dreams and reality keep converging, and here's wishing you all the best of luck, and thank you for having me to represent UNDP India.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sanghi, for those words of motivation. And I guess today's key motto is just believe in yourselves. So now for the most awaited moment of the day, the felicitation of the 12 winners of the 5th edition of the Youth Collab. I request Ms. Noda, Dr. Vaishnav, and Ms. Sanghi to kindly, I think, come down a little so that we can give away the prizes to the winners. Yes, yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would request all of you to please put your hands together for Akashdeep Bansal from Saral X. Next we have Saksham Gupta from EduBuild. Then we have Parul Kamra from Project Bala. Next up is Akash Deepakrao Kawale from AgroSure with the co-founder Akshay Deepakrao Kawale from AgroSure with the co-founder Akshay Verale. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your names, gentlemen. Next up is Dimam Pertin from Gepo Ali. A little more loud applause, please. Like Madhuri said, how's the Josh? So let's keep it high, please. These are the 12 winners that we have. Now we have Aman Kumar from Nutty Village with the co-founder Sushant Barma. Next is Pranjali Garg from ProMeet. Next we have Rajat Sohan Vishwakarma from My Planet. Next up is Rishabh Patel from Dump in Bin with co-founder Nitin Yadav. Now we have Sonal Shukla from eConscious with co-founder Vaibhav. eConscious is also receiving grants and mentorship from the CVC Foundation. Next we have Sandeep Kumar from Digi Swasthya. Digi Swastha is also receiving grants and mentorship from the CVC Foundation. And now we have Shankar Shri from Sputnik Brain. Wow, what a phenomenal group of winners. Thank you so much, Ms. Noda, Dr. Vaishnav, and Ms. Sangi. Please, a huge round of applause for our dignitaries and our winners. Now we will take a short break for 15 minutes. So I invite all of you to kindly join us for some refreshments in the foyer. I request our dignitaries and our winners to kindly stay back for a quick group photograph. We'll have a group photograph of the winners with the dignitaries. So request all the winners to kindly stay back.